All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just had a fantastic chapter of One Piece, and it's time to move on to, I want to say, a bit of a milestone chapter for My Hero Academia. But let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way, shall we? There's a sneeze that wants to come out, but I'm feeling like it's going to come out as soon as I try to do my intro, so I got to get this sneeze out. And now it doesn't want to come out. I hate that. Yo, peoples. Kyushu92 here. And welcome back to yet another My Hero Academia chapter reaction and review. Last we left out on, All Might was still contending with All for One, literally driving him, just driving him mad and making him use more and more destructive attacks. Then we had Kuinieda, who is a Tartarus prisoner that was there, assaulting both Fat Gum and Aoyama, chastising Aoyama and saying, like, you're a failure or whatever, just talking down to him, only for Aoyama to just cut loose and send out naval lasers everywhere, allowing Hagakure, who was hidden this whole time, and using her ability to manipulate light, blast Kuinieda in the back and defeats the last Tartarus member that was just out there on their own. And then we end the chapter with All Might just basically unleashing a mini orbital laser on both himself and All for One, with the extent purpose of trying to drive All for One's body closer and closer to disappearing, because the last bit of damage that All Might did to All for One had to use his quirks to push out the acid that was in him, and that sped up his body rewinding. So now we get to see what happens on chapter 400, Beyond Limits. And then we cut to Aoyama looking at Hagakure. Now, mind you, Hagakure, we see Hagakure's face. Like, we see her face. But, I mean, when she's invisible, she usually doesn't have any clothes on. And she's right there on top of Kuinieda, who's unconscious. And she's waving to Aoyama. And she looks down at herself, realizing that, she's exposed. And then she realizes that she's exposed and goes like, "Look away!" As she's, she's fully visible. Because the only time we ever see her wearing clothes is, when she's in school, or she has her hero outfit, which is her boots and her gloves. But we see Hagakure right here, just out in the open.
Look away!
Oui.
No! Being invisible is like my whole identity!
Oui, forgive me, but I didn't react as I myself was on the verge of death.
Using my quirk has never caused this before. Or wait, maybe it did? Facing down Doom must have made him go past his usual capacity, and that made my invisibility quirk bug out. Aoyama, your quirk went and evolved.
Ooh, yeah, it did, because his quirk laser just shot out multiple, not just one big beam, but just shot out everywhere. And his quirk caused her invisibility to dissipate, because she had to go above and beyond to, bend the light around a little bit, because I guess he got supercharged. Forget about that. We must burn away these plants to save our allies. Fat mentioned that they would continue to grow even with their master defeated. The will behind them may be gone, but they do not vanish. Hagakure, you can adjust the strength of my light to burn the roots that dig into their flesh.
Yeah, is your tummy up for it?
This day will be my last as a student of UA. So yes, whatever it may take. And then we cut back to All Might, who blasts himself and All for One. Engines overheating. Battery failure. Let up even a bit, and he'll drag himself away. And the blast just continues. I've taken a cue from Star's Last Stand. Although turning a laser into solid matter for continuous oomph isn't a trick in my repertoire. And as this whole area is just getting blasted by a laser, All Might is fine. He jumped out of the way. He's out of the path of the laser itself, but All For One is in this laser. And while we see this laser blasting down, we see a hand rising up. Not like Man of Steel when he's like rising up against the gravity of the gravity of the world engine on the other side of the world. A hand starts to rise up despite being blasted as he goes, "So, Soundwave vibration, earphone jack! I'll have to blast him with all I've got to keep him square in the strike zone." Because All For One is still struggling to get up. I purged the tentacool parts and zipped away with full power thrusters just as the beam was coming down. And coating my armor with Invisible Girl, a special optic resin helped shield me from the laser's heat a bit. Engineering this trap meant taking that one hit a hit I guaranteed would get with Tailman. Though my legs still paid the price. You wanted to see my face, so you didn't aim for my head, you moron. I got off easy here. And All Might is still smiling this whole time. But then we get tendrils that just shoot out everywhere. They shoot out everywhere, and they hit All Might in his shoulders, destroying the Soundwave vibration earphone jack configuration he has. These tendrils whip out that has like spurs and eyes all over them. Morphing armor, creati! I couldn't load myself up with more power than this. As we see All For One still trying to get out of the laser. Binding rounds, grape juice! So we have the powers of Jiro, we have the powers of Yaoyorozu, and now we have the powers of Mineta. Are we missing anyone? Are we missing anyone? Because we have Agakure's. We went down the list of how many powers he's replicated with his armor, and that list is getting smaller. Who are we missing? We're not Okay, who are we missing? I think we only had like 5 students that he had left. Hagakure, Yaoyorozu, Mineta. Bakugo is one. Bakugo is another one. But we have Soundwave vibration, so Jiro's done. We have binding rounds, grape juice, so Mineta's done. We have morphing armor, creati, so Yaoyorozu's done. And we have invisible girl armor coating, so that's Hagakure. So, and we have, and Ojiro. Ojiro was another one as well. So, and not only that, but these chapters are specifically bolding the letters of the students. So the only one left to copy is Bakugo. Because we have Ojiro, we have Jiro, we have Yaoyorozu, we have Mineta, we have Hagakure. They've all been, those were the ones we missed. The only one left to copy a power from is Bakugo. Because we've seen all the other configurations of every other student. Interesting. I couldn't load myself up with more power than this. Binding rounds, grape juice! And he throws these binding rounds away. So just fade away already! While my euphoria still overriding the pain! Because All Might's adrenaline is running so high right now that despite him getting damaged, he still has a smile on his face and he's just going crazy. But all of this whole fight is being shown. This whole fight's being shown to everyone. Even rural areas with like basic tube televisions.
Who's the skinny guy in black? I don't know much about them heroes. What happens if he wins? Or if he loses? That's all going on in some far-off land. Whoever wins doesn't have much to do with us.
Kinda does. Because if All Might wins, then that means that, All For One's threat is gone. But if All For One wins, then that means that it's gonna be very dangerous for everybody.
Whoever wins doesn't have much to do with us. Oh. Huh? Oh. Huh.
And then this young black kid, is just watching All Might fight, and he's looking at All Might, and he's holding his hands together, with anticipation. And then it shows the orbital laser that was being used. Orbital laser that was being used to hit All for One. It explodes from just overextending itself. It overloaded and it explodes. And All Might looks up, kind of losing the smile he had the whole time. And as it happens, something comes out. Oh, there it is! There it is! Let's go! There it is! As the smoke dissipates, we see a much younger All for One. He's literally a kid now. Come up out of the spot where the laser was hitting down. Yet for some reason, his body is glowing.
As I said, tools can't surpass their own limits.
His whole body's glowing. A wee lad now.
Are you forgetting to smile, dear friend?
And then All for One can't move. All for One cannot move at all. You know what comes to mind when I see All for One glowing like this? What if All for One took the quirk from the baby? You know, the first recorded instance of quirks in the world, and it was a baby that was glowing? All for One is glowing. Did All for One take that quirk from that child? Or, I mean, time could have passed and that person could have become a full-grown man who was also glowing. Did he take the quirk from that child? From the person that was that child? The first recorded quirk user in history was a glowing baby? And All for One is glowing? I'm just throwing that out there. Did he take it from that kid? But All for One is not only glowing, but he can no longer move.
I can't move.
All? Who are you really? Bleed red! Oh, All Might has a move. Pattern off of Stain. Wait. That's not All Might. That's not All Might. That's not All Might. That's not All Might. That, it's him. It's him. It's the hero killer. He's there. It's the hero killer. I recognize the way that speech bubble is made specifically. Graggly voice. It's Stain! Stain is there! It's Stain! It's Stain. It's Stain. Stain just froze. Y'all talked about this. I don't know who said it specifically, but y'all talking about, like, what if Stain shows up and immobilizes All for One? Whoever you are, you saw into the future. Stain is here. Stain is here. Y'all done got, this chapter done got me out of my desk. Okay. Stain is here.
I can't move.
All bleed red. And this is Stain, flying on what looks to be like a hoverboard of some kind. Oh, and he's licking a little bit of stone that has All for One's blood on it. And it cuts to All Might, who's rushing towards All for One as Stain screams out, "Now conquer him, All Might!" And Stain is riding on this big old hoverboard, lapping up this stone that just happens to have All for One's blood on it, sword in hand, as All Might is preparing to continue his fight with All for One, who is now immobilized. 10 out of 10 chapter. 10 out of 10 chapter. I enjoyed this. because there are theories that All For One is over 100 years old, like the Doctor, and is close to 200 years old. All For One is very much over 100 years old, because he was there during when Quarks first appeared in the world itself, and that was like a century ago. So yeah, All For One has been around. All For One has been around for over 100 years. He's long lived. Let's see here. Let me just go back to what you guys are saying. Holster, I'd like to think it's a joke that she's so cute that you can't see her. I love this moment for Aoyama. He's really grown from me liking him to him being one of my favorite characters. He really has progressed. I wonder if her Toru's future costume will use her hair similar to how Mirio's hair was used for his costume. It would be good, so that way, if she does turn back into her normal state so people can see her face, she's not bearing all for the world to see. That'll be great for her because she's still underage, and I would hate for anyone to look at her in any sort of way. And there's All For One not being smart and immature by trying to torture All Might to see his face in pain, and is pulling a big mom by playing with his food. Yeah, I think Bakugo is still missing. Yeah, we only have Bakugo's abilities left to show in All Might's armor, if that's still a thing for him. But that's the only thing left. Does this confirm All Might's Iron Man suit has War Machine's color scheme? Either that, or it's bad. Like, what color is his Hercules? What color is All Might's car Hercules? Whatever color Hercules is, that's the color. That's possibly the color for his suit. Or it could be, or his suit just could be patterned after his old colors that he used to have when he was able to be a hero, but it's just mechanized. It could just be his classic hero colors. Just, as a suit of armor, possibly. I think there's only 1 or 2 chapters if this fight's left, considering that to be the case. Wait, does this confirm glowing baby gate? Is All For One the baby who is glowing, or at least has an interaction with it or encounter with them? No, All For One is not the baby, because All For One's quirk is All For One. Because if he was the glowing baby, he wouldn't have gained access to All For One any other way other than some other user having it and then willingly giving it to him. But All For One had All For One first, had the quirk All For One first, and then gained everyone else's powers. Oh, wait, they said his armor was black in this chapter, didn't it? Wait, am I wrong? I think I'm wrong. Oh, yeah, it is black. It is black. Sorry, I overlooked that kid. I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm wrong. I am wrong. Thank you, Holster, for correcting me. Thank you for the correction. But All For One is not the glowing baby, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was... since quirks were around 100 years ago, I wouldn't be surprised if that baby grew up, was still glowing, didn't like the fact that he was glowing all the time, and had All For One take his powers away. But that was probably when All For One was much younger, and he probably just had this power. This is just a massive theory. I'm just making that assumption because there could be any number of quirks that allows a user to glow, but I'm just saying, if this is the quirk from the very first recorded quirk in history, it would not surprise me that All For One had it. It would not surprise me at all. Because there are theories All For One is over 100 years old and the Doctor is close to 200. So now the question is, how long will All For One be paralyzed? Well, let's look at Stain's quirk and how it works. And we can his quirk is called Blood Curdle. So, no, don't go there. No, wrong site. I need to go to the wiki itself. So his quirk is called Blood Curdle. And we'll see the extent of it. Allows the user to temporarily paralyze an opponent by ingesting samples of their blood. Weakness. The amount of time a victim remains paralyzed depends on their blood type in relation to the user's own. In Chizome's case, because that's Stain's name, Chizome Akaguro, blood type B represents the longest amount of time, then decreasing to AB, A, and finally O for the shortest amount of time. Enemy blood types can vary widely, and Chizome has no way to actually identify them, meaning the timing of each paralysis can become unpredictable. So unless we know All For One's blood type, We don't know how long this paralysis is going to stand. Hopefully, we'll find out later. Also, you find it funny, one of the most righteous heroes in history is beating up a child, the most evil child, but still a child. But let's just come back to what I brought up earlier when All For One's body was rewinding. The more his body rewinds, the less stable it is to hold all those quirks. Because notice how even for Nomu to have multiple quirks within their bodies to function, their bodies are still kind of relatively unstable, and some part of their mental capacity is lost due to this. But All For One has perfect timing. Family's calling me. Hopefully they're bringing me food. Give me a sec. Love my family so much. Okay. So, going back to what I was saying, All For One's body has been stable. His most stable is when he was an adult. That's when he was able to have all these quirks. He had his mental capacity was also calmer. But as his body's been regressing further and further and further, his mental capacity for control has decreased up until the point where he's just like a teenager, and he's pretty much lost all inhibitions. His quirks behave wildly with less control. Now, All For One is a child. So, his chances of gaining control of Shigaraki's body by getting to him is even less. Because he lacks the mental maturity to be able to do anything to Shigaraki now. He's a child now. All For One has regressed back to a child. But you also have to think about not only on a mental level, but also on a physical level, how he's able to have all those quirks within him without it having a side effect. Because the older All For One was, the more control he had. He only used quirks he knew were destructive and he could control. As he's aged backwards, he's lost control. Now he's a child. There's only so much a child's body can withstand before its limit is broken, pretty much. Do you think All For One will have O blood type? I wouldn't be surprised if he has O blood type, where it's only just like a small moment where he's paralyzed. All For One manages to leave like a massive hit on him. And that is enough to bring All For One closer and closer to rewinding. Because you can't tell me that All For One has all those quirks, those tons of quirks that he has in his body that was capable of devastating the landscape, and his body's fine with all this power just in a small child form. This isn't like in the Marvel comics or DC comics where supremely cosmic level beings can be in a small state and they have all that power and it's just contained. This doesn't work like that because every quirk has a limit. Every quirk has a limit. Every quirk has a weakness. Every quirk has a drawback. All For One is not immune to this. So for his body to rewind back, it just means he's losing. He's losing more control, and there's only so much time before his body becomes so unstable that he can no longer function on a normal level. That's just my assumption, because there's no way he's going to keep regressing and still maintain control over powers that are best used by a full-grown adult with a full-grown body that can withstand who knows how many quirks are in his body, all stuffed within him. The package is getting too small for the item inside. That's how this is how it is. Because you can't tell me he's going to regress to the point of like either a baby or whatever, and he's still able to use quirks efficiently. The brain is getting smaller. The ability to process thoughts on an adult level is getting smaller. Mental thought is getting smaller. This isn't a Mushoku Tensei type deal where it's a grown man in a young child's body. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can do. And the fact that we're not going on break on this chapter either. We're not going on break on this chapter, which is great. Rith, you says, this is not a One Piece stream, but you just want to waiting for any type of... So you finally started watching One Piece after watching live action. You loved it. Great. Oh, you're on Reverse Mountain. Awesome. You think after Bakugo's attack has shown we're getting Baby All For One? Bakugo is the only student configuration we have yet to see. We've seen everyone except Bakugo. Would love to see Bakugo later, because we still got to deal with Edgeshot risking his life in order to save Bakugo. But Michael Malker, hi, hello, how are you? We are in the review talking about the chapter phase right now. I thought it was fantastic. You want to catch up to the anime, then catch up to the manga, because you know for sure that when Oda reveals what the One Piece is, everyone and their grandma will get spoiled and it'll ruin the fun. I wouldn't say that. People will just be very, very careful. Also, did I watch Mushoku Tensei? I mentioned it. I know of it, but I have not actually watched a single episode of Mushoku Tensei yet. I haven't yet. But I wouldn't say that when the One Piece is revealed, everybody or grandma will get spoiled. It's just that will be a moment incredibly crucial that everyone just be careful on the internet. Of course, those who want to get the views first and spoil everything, you'll find their videos early in the week. Especially as stuff leaks. You'll find them on YouTube trying to get the most amount of revenue and views first without even caring if it spoils anyone. Because who cares? At least they're making money, right? But I wouldn't worry about it. It's far too soon for that to happen. We still got a ways to go. And I feel like you could fully catch up to not only the anime, but you can also catch up to the manga. And we still won't get done. It'll go trending on Twitter, which is why you blacklist words on Twitter. And why you avoid watching videos that deal with One Piece, because then you'll get recommended. That sort of thing. And that'll just put that in your face as well. So you got to be careful. But back to My Hero. Don't know about that many anime-only people got spoiled on Gear 5. It'll be hard to avoid even more than Gear 5 was. Yeah, it'll be hard to avoid. Don't be surprised if you just don't see me on the internet when that moment happens. But it's like I said, it's still too soon to think about when Oda reveals that information to us. We got a ways to go. We are still on Egghead. We still got a ways to go. So I wouldn't even have that as a concern right now. But yeah, Michael, can't believe All For One is a kid. I mean, most of us were thinking that it was going to get to this point if All For One kept barraging All For One with... If All Might kept barraging All For One with all of these attacks. We knew it was going to get to this point. But to see a child All For One... And mind you, the All For One inside of Shigaraki's mindscape is not able to exert control over Shigaraki simply because Shigaraki's will is stronger than he thought. Just one more question. Let me do one more. What's my top 3 arcs in One Piece? Marineford, Dressrosa, and Wano. Marineford, Dressrosa, and Wano. But yeah, it is crazy, Michael. We're at a point where All For One is a child now. And I don't think All For One... Now, mind you, he still speaks like he's an adult. But he lacks the body of an adult. And I honestly feel that we are about to see All For One at his most chaotic. Because if he turns into a baby, he can't do anything anymore. Because he'll be a baby. Motor functions decrease the younger you become. And the ability to have full control over your body decreases the younger you become. So it's not looking good for All For One. Because I said this before. Even if he got to Shigaraki, he wouldn't be able to exert his personality over him to an extent that means that he'll be able to take over Shigaraki simply because he's just too young. If it was an adult All For One, still clean, had the nice clean fit, he had a nice fit on when he was facing off against the heroes, brand new mask and everything, he was fine. He could have done it then. But now he's regressed to the point where he's younger than even Shigaraki. So his chances of being able to get to Shigaraki and actually implant his personality and will on him is even less likely simply because he's no longer in a state where he'll be able to do so. I really think All For One will be defeated, but All might be mortally wounded. I could see that. I don't think if he ends up to where Deku and Shigaraki is, I don't think he will succeed and take over his body. That's what I'm saying. His body has gotten to the point where him taking over Shigaraki's body is no longer a possibility. He's gone back too far. Gone back too far to have proper control. Gone back too far for him to be a significant threat on Shigaraki's mind. He's gone. He's gone too far for him to make any difference to Shigaraki right now. He's still spouting this nonsense saying like, oh, where's that smile? Matter of fact, let me just read the last thing that he said. As I said, tools can't surpass their own limits. Are you forgetting to smile, dear friend? And as All For One is trying to transform and do something to his body, he's frozen there because of Stain. But he's saying that tools can't surpass their own limits. All For One is in that same state as well. Because the tools, the quirks that he has in his body, cannot surpass the limits of his body. He's a child now. The quirks are only going to be able to go as far as his body is allowing it to go. That's as far as All For One can go right now. He goes back any further, his ability to use his quirks to their fullest extent regresses even further. Because he's a child. You don't see children in Marvel having the power of the Hulk or whatever, simply because their bodies are not meant for it. It's not the human body at a young age, from baby all the way to child, is not meant to undergo stress. It's not meant to undergo a heavy amount of punishment, a heavy amount of stress. That's literally not something that a younger body can handle. But as you get older, as your skin gets tougher and your muscles get bigger, your body gets more and more accustomed to hardship. Going backwards from that, you are more susceptible to hardships. So the case for All For One right now is that I wouldn't be surprised if his quirks start backfiring on him simply because his body can't handle it. Kind of wish that Shigaraki was the one that finished All For One off. He originally wanted to be a hero. Yeah, you wanted to be a hero, but then he got gaslit and groomed by All For One to be his next vessel because he knew that with Shigaraki's decay quirk, he could just lay waste to and everything and everyone that he ever wanted. Because Shigaraki's decay quirk is incredibly destructive. Still firmly believe All For One gave Tenko the decay quirk. What if he did? And he just orchestrated everything that went down with gave Tenko the decay quirk. And with that quirk, what's before a baby? I mean, most of us know what happens before a baby is born and what happens then. But he's at this point he's just gonna phase out of existence. I don't think Horikoshi is gonna give us like before birth All For One. I think he's just gonna fade. I think he's just gonna fade and disappear because when it came to Aries Rewind, her parents were rewound to the point of non-existence. And I want to say that All For One's going to do that. I don't think we're going to get baby All For One, but I think we're going to get All For One as a child, and then he just fades. It definitely won't happen, but imagine we got pre-baby All For One versus All Might. Overpowered baby. Just overpowered baby. Is it a fetus? I think so. Yeah, it is. But I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think Horikoshi is going to give us fetus All For One. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. But interesting chapter. I enjoyed it. Who knows how long the quirk for Stain is going to last on All For One. Yeah, he'll definitely phase. Just a funny thought? Yeah, it's a funny thought. But imagine pre-baby All For One just floating in the air and just essentially unleashing powers all over, but it's just like, what? Maybe about that big? Or maybe about that big, or just incredibly small. I don't know the exact size of a fetus. I don't know. I don't look into that sort of thing. But good chapter. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the moment with Aoyama, who apparently has awakened and has evolved his quirk. Hagakure Nice seeing Hagakure, though. Yeah, she should probably get some clothes on. But All Might fighting All For One, and it's getting to a point where All For One is now a child. This fight is almost done. This fight is almost done. You can't go any further than a child unless you go baby stage. And I don't think Horikoshi is going to show a baby All For One and All Might. You heard All For One's blood type is B? Interesting. Hold on. Let's see if we can pull up some information about that. Because there tends to be like trivia and stuff. So if we can find out, let's see. Ah, it is. His blood type is B. So if we go over. Yo, we're getting okay. So going back, thank you, Michael. Thank you, because we got to go back to Stain's blood curdle. Blood type B gives Stain the longest amount of time to paralyze someone. And that's the blood type that All For One has. He is blood type B. Blood curdle. The amount of time a victim remains paralyzed depends on their blood type in relation to the user's own. In Chizome's case, blood type B represents the longest amount of time, which means that All For One is going to be paralyzed the maximum amount of time that Stain is able to paralyze someone with blood curdle. It's over! It's over! Now, the question is, how long is that? Regardless, the maximum amount of time anyone can stay paralyzed is 8 minutes. More than enough. 8 minutes! You can do a lot of things in 8 minutes. The maximum amount of paralyzing time for blood curdle is 8 minutes. So for 8 minutes, All For One cannot move. Thank you, Michael. Michael, you the MVP. You the MVP this stream. You really are. So for 8 solid minutes, All For One cannot move. That's ridiculous. Chizome only requires his tongue to make contact with a small amount of a person's blood, regardless of where and how it's found. For example, coagulated blood stains on a curvature. Or curative. Why did I say curvature? Curative. Once the user gains access to his target's blood, they can activate blood curdle and immobilize their target for a limited period of time, leaving them vulnerable to a finishing move. So since All For One, unfortunately, had the blood type that makes it so that he can get stunned by Stain, he's got a solid 8 minutes of being immobilized. But I have to also agree with Ali here, because the dynamic that I've always kept with for this entire series is that every time it looks like the heroes are making a massive comeback, the villains always have like some sort of counter or have a moment where it becomes very unlikely for this method to work for very long. Ali says, this sounds great, but does All For One have a quirk that can counter it? Playing devil's advocate here. No, you're perfectly all right, because it's okay to be skeptical, especially when it comes to All For One, because he's unpredictable, even more so since he's a child. So you never know. That's just how the dynamic's been. Heroes get an edge up, villains get an edge up. Villains get an edge up, heroes get an edge up. And it just keeps going back and forth. That's been the scales for this entire story. Imagine All For One when he gets quirk, he gets the blood type of the person he took the quirk from and can change his blood type. That'd be scary if he's able to change his blood type at any time. Because then that would give us even less time for him to be stunned. But we're going to have to see next week, because we're not going on break. We're not going on break from this. That's amazing. Can you imagine? We have 400 chapters of My Hero Academia. Can y'all believe that it's gone on for this long? I'm shocked, but at the same time, I'm grateful that we're getting this story. I love this story. I love talking to all of you about this story. having long discussions about psychology, the nature of people, the mindset of individuals. I love it all. What if All for One steals Stain's quirk somehow? That'd be bad because All Might's blood is all over the landscape, and if he immobilizes All Might, that could be a problem. But we're just gonna have to see what next week's chapter holds for us, everybody. I am done. We had a fantastic chapter of One Piece, and we had a fantastic chapter of My Hero Academia. Before I go, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for the support of this channel, the continued support of this channel. It means the world to me, as we've recently hit 4,400 subscribers. 4,400. Well, actually 4,401. But I just want to say thank you for making this dream of mine not only a reality, but a recurring fun time for me. Waking up and doing this for you guys on the days that I do them, which is pretty much almost every single day that I come up with a stream or a video to make for you, it's a dream come true. I'm just incredibly blessed and thankful to do what I do for all of you. It really is so much fun to do basically anything, not just My Hero, but anything I do on this channel for all of you. And it this just brings me joy to know that I'm capable of entertaining so many people. So thank you. I'm done. Great chapters today. Can't wait for next week's episode. All I can say to all of you is, hope y'all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you enjoyed what you saw here, then do these things, because not only is it free, but it also helps the channel. Like, subscribe, share, and even comment down below, because that helps the channel. Commenting does kind of help out the channel. I don't know how, but it does. And share this video. Will like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with everyone you know, because the more the merrier. And because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples.